This is Harold, Lovecraft, and Tesla, Bundles of Joy, Riley, Rogers, and Weeks. This is a good book. I realize good books people don't watch good book reviews because they want to see bad books. They want to see cringe. I don't blame them. I want to see cringe too. I don't want to see good book reviews. There's a guy on YouTube who does very, very quick good book reviews, and that's the way to do them. Just let people know what doesn't suck. Usually people know what they like, but if they want to get introduced to a new book, I guess that makes sense for the hardcore comic book fans. Most people aren't even really into comics. They just want to see how bad they want to take part in the culture war. They want to see this facet of the culture war, how bad these comics are. And there are a lot of very strange comics. In fact, the next one I'm looking at is a bad comic. It's a Dr. Mirage Part 2 by Magdalene Mags Visaggio. And I haven't read it yet, but if the first one is any indication, it's going to be very bad. Because the first one was very bad, except for the colors were kind of interesting. Okay, now if you watch my reviews, I'm always harping about women who look like women and that kind of thing, and how SJW, Marvel, and even DC to some extent doesn't believe that women are allowed to have breasts or allowed to look sexy. Like I said, this is a good comic. It's a fun comic. And this woman, I guess, thinks she's Emilia Earhart, not drawn to be a sexy, beautiful woman. And she's one of the main leads. And that's not a problem, because everything else in the book is good. You don't have to have bundles of sticks in spandex, which is boobs hanging out everywhere. But you can't have women who look like men and misandry and, racism against European people. You can't have all that. You got to pick your battles. You got to have something visually compelling. Okay, when I said this book is good, I have to think to myself, well, how do I describe a good book? Is it good merely because it's not bad? And yeah, that's part of it, is it's not bad. And it sounds strange, but there are so many bad mainstream comics, especially at Marvel. And to be fair, DC and Image and Dark Knight, Dark Horse Comics, all the rest of them, there are a lot of very, very bad comics. So what is a comic? It's a graphical medium through which to tell a story. That's kind of it. It's a way to convey information, in a way to entertain. This is something you do not see in mainstream comics. Those things on her chest. And it's refreshing to see that kind of thing. And this comic subverts expectations. And subverting expectations is in a good way. It's not like Star Wars, where people went into Star Wars The Force Awakens Last Jedi expecting it to be good. They subverted expectations by making bad movies. I expect this comic to be bad. Turns out to be good. And that is definitely subverting expectations. Also, the women are not acting like just these man-hating, sexist, racist assholes that mainstream comics, the Gail Simones, the Kelly Thompsons of the world, how they portray their characters. It's just women, beautiful women doing kick-ass things. The art, like you might say, oh, well, the art is a simplified, stylized type of art. It's not the top level Marvel and DC art where the pencils and the colors are just out of this world fantastic. This is a simpler approach to art, but it tells a story very well. So that's another, you think it would be a negative, but it's not. If everything else is good and compelling and interesting, the art doesn't have to knock you out. It's just enough to tell a story, and it does it really well. And this is a few pages in, and they get into this heavy science fiction theme where there's, I don't know what these are supposed to be, portals to alternate dimensions or wormholes or tunnels. You get the idea, those kind of things. And it's really interesting, and it's so refreshing to see a comic like this where I saw this page and I thought, whoa, this is like reminding me of science fiction I read as a kid. This is what a comic is supposed to be. This is escapist fiction. You got Emilia Earhart and her partner, or her, I don't know what that is, a little elf or something, and she sees this rip in the fabric of space-time, and I guess that's H.P. Lovecraft and Tesla. They're doing something, but it's this big mysterious background. And you get this little Ghostbuster scene where, okay, Tesla and Lovecraft. So this kind of historical fiction is a lot of fun. I think they have Emilia Earhart, Tesla, Lovecraft, and Harry Houdini. That's awesome when you use those characters. I mean, it's I guess there's no intellectual property concerns about using historical characters in fiction, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, so you've got these three, the woman, the two guys, and what is subverting expectations is the woman is just not relentlessly dunking and being a misandrist against the two guys. She's not, you don't have to, what SJW comics do is to elevate the woman, they put down the men, or to elevate the non-European characters, they put down the European characters, and it's just so heavy-handed and so old that when you see these people working as a team, it's really refreshing. This is what comics should be. This is what comics were. And another thing I noticed about comics is that when they had this kind of just neutral approach to storytelling where men and women liked each other and, different ethnicities got along, when, pre-propaganda, which is about 30 years ago, was when they had much less propaganda because they were interested in the bottom line. It tells a good story, and I keep waiting for the SJW-isms to start, and even on first blush, I just never saw it. This is this really interesting story. They're doing a lot of stuff. At first glance, this looks kind of silly Billy, the monster in the background, but it totally fits the story. It's not. It just, everything works. If the woman was, she in a Marvel comic, she would be from Pakistan or something, and these two guys would be English or German or whatever, and they have blonde hair, blue eyes, and the Pakistani woman would be better at them than everything. It's just they're so obvious about their propaganda. This doesn't do that. They're working as a team. The women, men and women, they all have challenges they have to overcome. They're not purse puppies. They have problems, and they're not always successful. They get an alien infection from beyond the multiverse. He gets it on his neck, and she gets it on her arm or something. And even that is refreshing, because I think in Marvel Comics, it would probably just be the guy who got the infection and had to deal with it. So allowing this imperfection in both men and women is interesting. And it's interesting to give her that collar, which is kind of a BDSM dog whistle theme. I don't know. But they have this older woman. I don't know. She's his mom or something. She's kind of a witch in a strong, powerful role. She's a powerful magician, something like that. I won't read that. It's kind of politically incorrect, and I don't think you can read the the text. That's why I record at only 480 definition, because they can't copy strike me if you can't read the text. So I won't zoom in on this and this, but trust me, it's politically correct. Politically incorrect. Surprised to see comics do that. Modern comics do that. Okay, so you got a powerful woman. Two powerful women, and it's not obnoxious. It's not just over the top disgusting. And you have these three women who kind of act like succubuses, I guess, or the three fates. And they're all big boob, small waist. They look like women who are capable of reproduction. They appeal to everyone. Both men and women want to see beautiful people doing amazing things. That's not that's not the male gaze or the female gaze. It's telling stories. I mean, humans have been telling stories for as long as they have had speech and been capable of crafting stories. Okay, these three women, for whatever reason, they're trying to get pregnant by these smart men. I guess this is Houdini, and they want to essentially have sex with Houdini and Tesla and the other guy, H.P. Lovecraft, because they for whatever reason they want to have these smart babies. So these three women basically get down with them, which is cool. These two women, they're not both purse puppies, just totally getting along with each other. Every woman are besties, like your boy Zach mentions. She gives her this potion to cure to treat the alien infection on her arm, and the woman starts to drink it, and it would have killed her, but the mother's just being a total bitch to her and says, you apply it to your arm. All this is subverting expectations in a good way. They've got problems. They're not instantly overcoming them. She's using magic to overcome them. It's not working. They got this alien infection. It has the total steampunk HP. Who wrote the time machine? Was that not Jules Verne? Jules Verne, but I'm forgetting his name. The guy who wrote the time machine. I don't think it was Jules Verne. I think it was the other guy. It was a French guy and the English guy who wrote that kind of early science fiction about 200 years ago. And I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. I've read almost everything the guy's written. Both Jules Verne and the other guy. Anyway, every theme, this book just keeps knocking the ball out of the park. It just keeps hitting home runs. Everything is compelling and interesting. You got the diving helmet that I guess lets them see into alternate dimensions. And as soon as you get to that vision, it's interesting. There's something going on. There's something going on in every panel. This is what comics used to be, guys. If you grew up pre-comics, if you grew up not reading comics before the 90s, I can say with certainty that, I don't know, anything pre-90s was definitely good. And people will say, okay, well, there was some good stuff from the 90s to 2000. Okay, yeah, but I can say pre-90s, you had a very high hit ratio of good comics. And, even nowadays, I was going to say even nowadays you can find good comics, but it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare because any interaction you have between Euro and non-Euro and male and female, they cannot write a neutral approach. It has to be woman good, man bad, non-Euro good, Euro bad. They can't get away from that in modern comics, because if they did, the 12 angry Twitter sociopaths would probably just blast them. And I'm going to say this at the end of the video because no one's going to get to the 12-minute mark. I mean, some people listen to me defending men and defending the Europeans, and they think, ooh, defending Europeans and defending men sounds sexist and racist. And it's not, but we've been conditioned to think, we can be conditioned by the media who are writing the narrative to think, oh, it's acceptable to be racist against Europeans and it's acceptable to be misandrous against men. And no, of course it's not. If you're a true liberal, a libertarian, you know that racism applies across the board. Any human being can be racist against any other human being. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, you can be sexist. Those terms are neutral terms. They apply to all humans. Any human capable of rational thought can believe in characteristics based on race being inherently superior to other races. That's just the simple definition. The cultural Marxists, the globalists, the open borders people, they want to change those definitions because they're the most racist, sexist people on earth. They're the worst people on earth. They are the people who run the gulags. They're the people who ran the camps. They are the people in World War II, the Russians who slaughtered 100 million of their own, 50 million of their own people. They're the Chinese who slaughtered 50 million of their own people. They're Pol Pot, they're Papa Doc, they're just the Khmer Rouge. They're just the worst people on earth. They're evil, evil people. Anyway, this is Harold, Lovecraft and Tesla, and there's 2 issues out, and buy it, check it out. If you like the characters, you like science fiction, if you like the kind of steampunky vibe, if you like good comics, this is a good comic. Guess what? It's better than anything Marvel or DC. I'll say it's better than 99% of the things Marvel and DC have released in the past 10 years. Of course, they still hit balls out of the park, but not that often. And this is a solid book. It fires on all 8 cylinders. How many old metaphors can I mix in? I'm trying to mix metaphors as much as possible, especially sports metaphors, because I don't know anything about sports. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. I will see you next episode.